the Chair, Council of Governors, the Chair Agriculture, Honorable Lusaka, karibu.
Your Excellency, sorry, I have really worked hard. So you will allow me make my remarks on behalf of the COG. Your Excellency, the Deputy President of the Republic. Is not managing the sugar sector from a distance. It is engaged at the highest level with its future. We are very grateful, Your Excellency. On behalf of the Council of Governors, the constitutional voice of Kenya's 47 counties, I bring greetings from the grassroots of this economy, from the men and women whose hands are in the soil every single day. Gathered to discuss. Sugar is not a commodity at the margins of Kenya's economy. It's a pillar. The sugar sector directly supports the livelihoods of over 6 million Kenyans, farmers, transporters, factory workers, input suppliers, traders, and the entire rural communities whose economies rise and fall with the cane cycle. It contributes significantly to our agriculture GDP. It anchors the Western Kenya economy in ways no other crop can replace. And every reform, every commitment must be measured against their lives. If it does not reach them, it has not succeeded. If it does not change their reality, it is noise. On the role of the county government, I must be unambiguous. Kenya's constitution is not silent on this matter. Agriculture is a devolved function. That is not a bureaucratic detail. It is a democratic design. Counties are not implementation agents waiting for instructions from Nairobi. We are constitutional partners in the development of this sector. County governments license farmers, support extension officers, develop irrigation and water infrastructure, manage land use, and maintain the rural roads that move cane to factories. We are the last mile. And as in every supply chain, expert in this room knows the last mile is where value is either created or destroyed. Yet for long, county governments have been consulted after sugar policy is designed rather than during its conception. This must change. An inclusive sugar economy demands inclusive governance. The Council of Governors is calling for a formal, structured, and permanent seat at the National Sugar Policy table, not as guests, but as principals. When counties are empowered, the farmers are marginalized. It is the smallholder who pays the price. That equation is not negotiable. Let me speak now about the reforms, because this administration deserves to be acknowledged for political courage. The Ruto administration inherited a sugar sector in deep structural distress, decades of mismanagement, debt-ridden parastatals, unpaid cane proceeds, factional politics around factories, and a regulatory environment that rewarded patronage over productivity. Turning that around was never going to be painless, and the temptation to move slowly, to protect vested interests, to manage the politics, rather than fix the problem, that temptation was real. But the reforms have come. The liberalization of sugar imports has injected competitive discipline into a sector that had grown comfortable with inefficiency. The privatization of state sugar companies, long overdue, signals the end of factories that existed to serve political interests rather than produce sugar. The push toward contract farming framework is restructuring the relationship between the farmer and the miller on fairer, more transparent terms. The commitment to clearing historical cane payment arrears is not merely financial relief. It is a restoration of trust, and trust is the foundation on which everything else must be built. These are not cosmetic changes, they are structural. The Council of Governors stands firmly behind them, even as we call for their implementation to be accelerated and for county governments to be empowered as full partners in the execution. The woman who rose before sunrise this morning, she's watching. The young man who wants to build in Nzoia, he's watching. Let us make sure what we see, what they see is a government and a sector that is following through. Inclusion, Your Excellency, Honorable Judge, distinguished delegates. The takeaway from Diani must be simple. Into sugar policy, not periodically invited but permanently seated. The smallholder farmer must be a measure of every single reform. If it does not reach her hands, it has not worked. Investment in research, modern varieties, and irrigation infrastructure must move from proposal to implementation without further delay. Accountability must be non-negotiable. Every beyond our borders, it feeds a regional demand that Kenya is uniquely positioned to supply. When we speak of building a sustainable, competitive, and inclusive sugar economy, we are not speaking in abstractions. We are speaking about whether a mother in Mumias can afford school fees after harvest. We are speaking about whether a young man in Nzoia sees farming as a future or a curse. We are speaking about national food security, rural industrialization, and Kenya standing as an agricultural powerhouse in this continent. The stakes are that high. That, Your Excellency, Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates, I want to speak directly about where we meet today and what this moment demands of us. We are indeed a place of beauty, yes, like the governor has said, but today something more. I want to speak plainly about the kind of meeting this must be. When the historians of Kenya's sugar sector sit down to write, and they will write, I want them to point to Diani. From the cane belts of capitals, from international institutions, from the corridors of government. They looked at each other honestly. They spoke uncomfortable truths about decades of mismanagement, about broken promises, about a sector that has for too long betrayed the very farmers who sustain it. And then, rather than retreating to the comfort of their familiar, they committed to something better. That is the kind of meeting this must be, not a gathering of elegant speeches that dissolve into inaction, not another communique filed in an annex and forgotten, not a footnote, not a paragraph, not even a chapter book. A book about moment Kenya chose transformation over incrementalism. A partners aligned behind a shared vision and refused to leave the table without a binding commitment or action. A book that the future generations of sugar farmers will point to and say, that is where it turned around. That is where they finally mend it. That is the weight of this moment. Let us carry it accordingly. I want to speak about the people who send us here. Because somewhere in Western Kenya, as we gather in this beautiful coastal setting, there is a woman, a sugarcane farmer, who rose before sunrise this morning. Before the light came, she was already in her shamba, hands in the soil, tending to a crop she has tended season after season through the broken promises of an unpaid proceeds and grinding uncertainty of a sector that has too often let her down. She's not here asking for pity. She does not want our sympathy. She's not a statistic in our presentations or a photograph in our brochures. She's asking for action. And there is a young man in Nzoia, educated, ambitious, full of energy, who wants to build a future in agribusiness. He has ideas, he has a drive, he has worked, his parents farmed the land, and he wants to do more with it, to build something, to create something lasting. But when he looks at the sector he's supposed to inherit, what does he see? Broken mills, bounced checks, a value chain riddled with mistrust and dysfunctional. He's not asking for our sympathy. He does not need our condolences. He's asking for our leadership. These are the two people this meeting must serve. Everything we decide here, every framework, shilling, every promise made on these shores must be tracked and reported. And as we must leave Diani with urgency, not the urgency of panic, but the urgency of people. Human cost, when no longer can afford to ignore. Kenya sugar belt is not a problem to be managed. It's a strategic national asset. The last time, in the long time, a